Hello and welcome to another episode of the Masterminds of Real Estate podcast. This is Robert Drace, your host. Nastar's not with me this week. He's off doing his event for RIA, but privileged that I have you here with me again. We're doing things a little bit differently. This podcast is being recorded. It's not being done live. I am actually not even in my office. I am at the beach. Because I figured I can be, so that's why I'm here. Today's episode's going to be about questions I asked everyone, new, experienced, somewhat new. Throw me your questions at real estate, let me answer them the best I can for you. Almost all of them came back from newbies, and almost all of them were about wholesaling. So this will be newbies' answers to the questions I have on wholesaling. So without further ado, let's get started and let's do this. First question of the day is, how many letters should a new investor send? Well, it really depends on your budget. Quite honestly, I would say send at least 2,000 letters a month, or mailings a month. Doesn't have to be letters, can be postcards as well. But if you don't have the budget, don't let that stop you. You're just going to have to spend a little bit more time targeting your list down to what would be the more motivated. The more likely a lead sounds like a country song, the more likely they're motivated. If they have a code violation, they may be motivated, they may not be motivated. If they have a code violation with the divorce, with bankruptcy because of the divorce, and then they lost their job, well then yeah, that's probably quite a bit more motivated, and you more likely have a deal there. So don't let things stop you. That's what I see a lot in this business. I see so many people, hundreds of people over the last few years, that for one reason or another, they use things as an excuse to fail rather than to succeed, or to give up rather than to prosper. And it really shouldn't be that way. Don't be weak. Okay, if you're weak, turn this podcast off. This podcast is for strong people. It's not for weak people. It's as simple as that. Should I send letters or should I send postcards? Again, depends on your budget. I think if you're brand new, send yellow letters. Yellow letters, piece of, I'm trying to show you. Yellow legal pad, red pen, simple letter. Hi, John. My name's Robert. I'd like to buy your house at 123 Main Street. Please call me ASAP. Thanks, Robert. Telephone number. Fold it, invitation envelope, self-address, handwrite the envelope. Use a holiday stamp or some type of stamp that looks one-on-one more personable rather than business-like. Tuck the envelope shut, and you will get phone calls. Obviously, if you're more experienced, I'm not really going to say use yellow letters as much, just because you're going to get lots of phone calls, but not all of them are going to be actually, majority of them are normally not going to be super motivated. So the reason I say newbies to use yellow letters is two reasons. This business is made up a lot of mindset and momentum. If I tell you to only send out, 300 super targeted leads with a mail piece that gets, even 2%, 2% is pretty good actually, a mail piece that gets 2% response rate, your phone's probably not going to ring a lot. And, your phone doesn't ring a lot, oh, this business doesn't work, or oh, I'm not set out for this business, or something of that nature, and you give up before you even try. Okay, yeah, you made some attempt, but not really. You didn't really make that much of an attempt. Sending out a few letters, seriously. You're building a business. One of the most important pointers I can give you with direct mail is you have to follow it up. You can't just send someone one thing one time and forget about them. It doesn't work that way. You have to send things multiple times. I know a lot of people do it 8 to 10 times. I would say do it no less than 3 times. So, with us, we mail something out. Well, with us it's a little bit more complicated. We mail and call. But we mail, we call, then we mail again by the second week, a reminder. Then we call again now. And then about a month later, then they get another mail. Follow-up's key. Follow-up's huge. Postcards are good to get numbers out. They're cheaper. They get seen right away, but they don't get as big as response rate normally. Depends on where you're at in the business. Depends on your budget. If you're brand new, have a few $100 a month to throw at direct mail, do yellow letters. Even if you don't get anyone that's motivated, which hopefully that's not the case, but it could be, you get the practice. And the practice is invaluable. You have to learn how to talk to people. You have to learn what to say. You have to learn how to act. You have to be comfortable with it. You have to get comfortable with it. So, that's how we do that. Who do you give the deposit to and how much? Quite honestly, I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. Let me just state that for the rest of this podcast. All information I'm going to disclose in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. So who do you give the deposit money to? You're going to give it to a title company. They're going to open up escrow. You're not going to give it to the seller. Okay, again, let me repeat that. Do not give the earnest money to the seller. Give it to a title company. In some states it's an attorney. Whoever, let them open up escrow. Okay? Every state has different laws. Some states you can get away with doing $10, other states $100. Quite honestly, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, I don't know of any state where the minimum isn't at least, well, I know a few states where it's below 100, but if you do 100, you should normally be safe, but just double check with your state first just to make sure. Quite honestly, if it's a good deal, I've done $1,000 earnest money. I've done $5,000 earnest money. You just have your outs. If it's a good deal, why would you not put $5,000 up to get that deal, lock it up under contract, have your few outs, just in case. You never want to get in a contract and right back out again. But, if you find something out about the property that you didn't know before, or you thought it was a great deal, but then you reran the numbers, and because you're new, you kind of messed up a little bit. As long as you have your outs, such as an inspection period or something of that nature, you're going to get that earnest money back in most cases, which is good. Okay? But don't be afraid to lock things up, neither. Lock things up, but be smart about it. Let's see what we got here. By the way, for earnest money, if you do any bank loans, you're going to need at least $1,000 earnest money. I have done a few that require 10% earnest money. 10% of purchase price. So if I'm buying something for $80,000, I need to put up $8,000 earnest money. Again, if it's a deal, why not, right? With millings, should you focus on neighborhoods or zip codes? Again, this is more of a local question. In my area, a lot of the zip codes are neighborhoods, for the most part. If you're in a part of a country where a zip code has, 10 different neighborhoods in it, focus on where the business is. If you can get a house at night, a great deal on a house, but no one's buying, and I have had this happen in the virtual market when I used to do virtually. I had a house that, I thought I just got such a great deal on it. It was a good neighborhood, low crime, great value on the house, very motivated seller. But you know what the problem was? And this was my own stupidity. There wasn't anyone buying in the area. Okay, you have to find properties where people are actually buying too. So, it depends on your local vicinity. Figure out where people are buying, figure out where the action's happening, and obviously focus there. Whether it be neighborhoods or zip codes, or a mixture, quite honestly. Do you make offers on the first call with the seller? Offers, no. You always want to try to get the seller to throw out a number first. If you can't do that, you do what's called a soft pass, which is something like, Joe, this is proper. I see a similar house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath concrete block construction that was built in 2006, sold last month for $200,000 right down the street from you. But that looks like in great condition. I'm looking through some pictures. You know, you said yours, you know, had Chinese drywall, this, that, and the other. The windows popped out of it. You know, so you're going to take that and you're going to throw out a number. Well, you know, Joe, because of all the repairs you need and whatnot, and I'm also paying cash, so I'm looking for a little bit of a discount there too. I'm only going to probably be willing to give you, well, let's take out the Chinese drywall situation because that would change things, but let's say they need some repairs. Okay? So let's say repairs, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000 maybe. Well, Joe, you know, I'm able to give you 90,000 for your property. I'll pay the closing cost. I'll have it done for you within 45 days, no headaches, no realtors, no commissions. How does that sound to you? When can I come over and look at the property? You know, this number can go up or down. I have to see the property first, though. And then shut up. After you tell them that, shut up. Let them talk. Let them see how they react. See where their mind is. See how they feel. You know, sometimes they're going to go, well, you know, I was hoping to get a little bit more. If you throw, you know, you can't get what you don't ask for. And I really, really took that to heart, especially this year. You know, I had one house that we picked up for roughly $4,000, a little bit under $4,000. It's a $75,000 house. Now, yes, it does need a lot of repairs, but before I really embraced this of you can't ask what you don't, you can't get what you don't ask for, I would have probably offered 15, maybe even 20,000 for it. So, you know, and with that one, the seller said, well, okay, yeah, I'll take whatever I can get. I could have probably offered less and probably got it. And, you know, and I obviously made them aware of the value, and because I have to, I'm tied to legalities because I am a realtor, of the house, but I also gave them a value of what I was giving them as far as, okay, it's going to be hard to sell this house because it does have a limited amount of fire damage to it. It has multiple code violations, unless you want to come into town and try to fix them all yourself, which can be a timely procedure. You're going to have to give up work, you're going to have to take a plane ride down to Florida, you're going to have to rent a place because this place isn't livable right now. So, you know, you got to be fair, but you got to remember, this is a business. You're not a non-profit organization. Forget where I was at right there, quite honestly. Oh, but yeah, do a soft pass. See what they come back at. Oh, no, that's ridiculous. Okay, well, what were you thinking? Don't just stop the conversation. I see so many people doing that, and it irritates me. Don't just stop and say, oh, okay, well, I guess we can't do business. Bye. No. Say, well, okay. I understand. I'm sorry if I offended you, but what were you thinking? If you're brand new, even if they give you something that's maybe not close to where you want to be, go to the appointment. If for nothing else, the experience of going to appointments. If you're more experienced, then, you know, either figure out a way to make the deal work or pass on to the next one, obviously. But when you're brand new, I don't believe in just passing. I believe in getting that experience underneath your belt. That way, when the motivated sellers do come to you, which they will come as long as you don't give up, you're more experienced, you're more likely, you're more professional, and you're more likely to get the deal at the end of the day. How do you know if an appointment is worth your time? You know, it really comes down to mindset and motivation. Where are they coming from mindset-wise? Are you the hero that's going to save the day? Or are you the villain that they just want to call to see how bad you can insult them? And quite honestly, everyone's different on that. And what's their motivation to sell? And sometimes you have to pick at this a little bit before you really find the motivation. Well, oh, tell me, why are you selling this house anyways? I just feel like moving away from it. Okay, well, tell me more. Why do you feel like moving away? Where are you going to move to? California. Oh, that's great. Why are you moving to California? Well, you know, my wife died last year. My grandkids are in California. Now you start getting somewhere, and now you can gain rapport, and now you can really figure out why. You can go back to that motivation factor. You know, a lot of people are going to make decisions. Don't use this for evil by any means, please. But people normally make decisions off of emotions. If you can figure out the motivating reason why they're selling, the true motivating reason, and you can continue using that, you're going to have more likely of a chance. You're going to be able to stir those emotions up and go, well, you know, I'd really like to get you to see your grandkids as soon as possible, Mr. Smith. How about I do this for you? And you put a deal together. Okay, and be fair. I mean, we're in this business to make money, but, you know, don't be a schmuck. Don't try to screw people over at the same time. Provide a valuable service and get paid for it. Let's see our next question here. What info should you gather from the seller? Well, obviously, you should have a lead sheet, especially when you're first starting out. That way you don't forget any questions. I'm not going to go through a whole lead sheet, but here's a few of them for you. Obviously, you need the address of the property, how much they owe on the property, or is the property free and clear? If they do have a mortgage, are there any back payments due on the property? The condition of the property, what type of repairs it needs. And use the thing, tell me more, once again. Well, the roof leaks a little bit. Okay, tell me more. Well, the roof leaks a little bit because the hurricane came through last year and ripped half of it off, so all it has is a blue tarp. Well, there you go. Now you need a whole new roof rather than just a patch. Which is a big difference in cost there, obviously. Is the property vacant? Is it rented? Is it occupied by them? What condition do they think the property's in? Okay? And the biggest one is, why are they selling? You gotta ask that question. If you don't ask that question, you're leaving money on the table every single time. Why are they selling? What is their motivating point to sell? Next question would be, how do you put together seller financing? Honestly, if you asked me that a year ago, I would have answered you. But with the new Dodd-Frank regulations going into effect, it's fortunately making owner financing a little bit more of a headache than what it needs to be. You can thank government for that, unfortunately. But I don't feel comfortable answering that question at this time just because of the new regulations considering the Dodd-Frank bill. Let's see. Do you have to have an answering service? No, you don't have to. It's not 100% necessary. If you have the budget for it, yes, do it. It helps. Is it 100% necessary? No. And normally anyone that tells you it is 100% necessary is trying to sell you an answering service. So, you know, if you have the budget, definitely invest in it. If you don't have the budget, there are other ways to do it. And that kind of leads into the next question. Is it okay to let calls go to voicemail? And that's really a big yes and no. Is it okay? Preferably not, but if that's your only option, if you're working a job, if you have things going on where you have to let it go to voicemail because you can't afford an answering service, then so be it. Now, where a lot of people make the mistakes are they don't call people back in a timely manner. You want to try to call people back as soon as possible, latest being 12 hours after they called. Preferably within a few minutes. Even if you have to jump into the bathroom real fast and go, hey, my name's Robert, I just saw that you called. I'm sorry, I'm at business lunch right now. Can I give you a call back in a few hours? Just to let them know that you acknowledge that you're not a scam, that you're a true business person, and you will call them back. Okay? Don't let it go to voicemail, though, and call them back a day, 2, 3 days later, or never call them back for that matter. You're wasting money, and if you feel like giving away money, you can mail some to me. I'll always take it, obviously. So, yes, call them back as soon as possible if you have to let it go to voicemail. Is it good to hire a VA as a newbie investor? Yes, as long as you know what you want your VAs to do. If you have to know the task and you have to know exactly what you want them to do, because how can you expect them to do a great job if you don't even know truly what you want them to do? Okay? So what I tell people is take a legal pad or some type of paper or something and write down task by task by task, as specific as possible, what you want your VA to do. Then, go the next few days and do that task yourself. You got to feel comfortable in it, because if someone doesn't understand or they have questions, that way you're not a mumbling buffoon, and you can actually answer their questions for them. So, once you feel comfortable doing that task, though, you can go to a service like screencast-o-matic.com, and you can do what's called a screen capture video, which is pretty much you capture your computer screen and you give your VAs instructions on step by step, baby steps on what to do. And this also helps because if you have to hire a new VA, or your team grows, or a person quits or something like that, it saves time because you can just forward it right on to another VA. But first, you have to feel comfortable with what you're doing first. Should you have a realtor on your teams? The next question, yes, yes, and yes. You need a realtor on your team for multiple reasons. You need them to do comps for you. You need them to make offers, especially on like bank-owned properties that are listed with sellers, which, word of wisdom, please don't lock up a property if you don't know for sure you're going to be able to flip it. Most realtors should actually be doing their job in protecting their clients anyways by limiting the terms of the contract. But if for some reason you come across a newbie realtor that doesn't do so, please don't just start locking things up just to lock things up. You're wasting everyone's time, including yourself. Get something that's actually a good deal. That's a whole other thing where you know you're going to be able to sell it. You also want your realtors to be able to send you expireds. Expireds are a gold mine for both realtors, but they're also a gold mine for investors, quite honestly, and I don't see a lot of investors going after them. Pendings, another way that a realtor can help you. And they would have to work a little bit more for you on this one. But, if you see something pending after only one day on the market, and it's in your area that you're concentrating on, your realtor can give up the listing realtor a call and go, hey, listen, I saw that property you listed over at 123 Main Street, how it went pending in a day. If anything falls through, let me know because I may have a buyer for you. You got to be confident in this game, though. It's not something you can really think about. You got to be able to know what you're doing and do it. It's not something where you're going to be able to sit and think. You have to act. And you got to be confident in what you're doing. Simple as that. So yes, you do need a realtor on your team. Best lead list, that's going to depend on area. I've done this virtually in multiple areas across America. The only list I can say that runs pretty average with a decent response rate is probates. Code violations to a point, but I would say probates above code violations. Absentees, everyone's hitting absentees. Now, if it's an absentee with a code violation, then yes, possibly. Again, the more it sounds like a country song, the more motivated it more than likely is. Also, another good rule of thumb is the harder the list is to make, the more likely it is to be a good list. You have to go to the courthouse and work for, 10 hours to put a list together. Most people won't go to the courthouse and work for 10 hours to put a list together. They'd rather go to one of these websites, buy a list in 5 minutes, send them out, and boom, bang, they're done. Well, yeah, that's nice, and yeah, sometimes you will get a deal. But if you're hitting a list that no one else is hitting because it takes too much work, well then, what competition do you have? Or if even only 1 or 2 people hit that list, it beats 100 people hitting that list. How do I build buyers list? A few different ways. You can network. And when I say networking, it doesn't have to be with just real estate professionals. It can be your doctor, your family doctor, your dentist, your eye doctor, just about anyone, quite honestly. And you just tell everyone what you do. If you're a wholesaler, well, listen, I get properties under market value, under contract, and then I resell them for a small profit. Easy as that. Okay? So you can network, you can call. What I mean by phone calls are you find who's buying in whatever area, what companies are buying the most, or what people even are buying the most. If they're people, scan them against the do not call list. You pretty much skip trace them, or you look them up online. If they're a business, they're normally pretty easy to find a telephone number for. Sometimes you may have multiple telephone numbers. You call them until you get in touch with someone. You talk to them, you say, hey, listen, I get properties under contract in this area, and I just wanted to know the next time I get a property under contract, under market value, would you be interested in taking a look at it? Oh, sure, yes, definitely, especially in today's market where it's getting tighter. And then you go, well, listen, I tell you what, I'm going to keep your contact info and everything, but also do me a favor, go to webuyhouses.com or any website, whatever website your website is, obviously. And you send them to a squeeze page, which is just a basic page, kind of explains, gives a very general idea of what you're doing, what you're offering, and they put their name and email in there, and that way every time you have a property, you send it out to this list, and after you've been doing this, as long as you've been focusing on doing your buyer's list, you're going to have more and more and more people, where you're going to have hundreds and then thousands of people, where it makes it much easier to be able to flip these properties. At first it takes a little bit of work, and like everything else, over time it starts to become a little bit easier. Let's see what other questions we have here. Explain maximum allowable offer, MAO. Well, you have to know your local market. I don't believe in the whole 70% minus repairs, and that's because it's a good rule of thumb, but it's not really so at the same time. I know a few areas where people are buying at market value after repair 85, 86%, 87% actually. Last month was 87%. Depending on how tight inventory is. You know, if someone's buying at 87% and you come in and you have it priced at 70%, you're leaving tons of money on the table. Real estate's local. Whether you're doing this virtually or not, it's local. And what I mean by that is you have to understand who's buying, what are they buying, where are they buying, and how much they are buying. You've got to understand those four things. You got to understand whether it's a market you live in or it's somewhere different. You got to understand what's going on. You got to keep your fingers on that pulse because it constantly changes. You know, one zip code may not be hot for 6 months, and then all of a sudden a city decides to rehabilitate the streets and bring it back to life, and then all of a sudden, kaboom, all the investors are there. So, you know, you got to pay attention to your market, and that's really about it. Just know your local market. Know what's going on around you. So I think that's all the questions I had, which is good because my parking times, I'm going to stop at the beach anyways. Guys, I hope this helped you out a lot. I want to give information to help. We don't want to give too much information to overwhelm. You know, I'll give you a fair warning. Get out there, do it. You're going to fall. That's not important. Laugh at it and get back up. And you're a little bit better person every time you get back up, and that's what's important. Because as long as you keep falling and getting back up, you're going to be able not only to do this, but to do it very successfully and live a life that most people only dream of. The reason why I would probably say 90% of people never really reach where they want to be, probably 95% quite honestly, is because they're afraid of falling. Or when they fall, they're afraid of getting back up. You can't be neither. Have no fear. Get out there and do that. That's one of my biggest words of wisdom. Have no fear. Just do it. So what if you fall? What's the worst thing that can happen if you fall? Well, I'm using my last $500 for marketing. Okay, well what? You're never going to make $500 again in your life? You're never going to make $1,000 again in your life? What, that's the end of life altogether? Seriously. It's normally we over-exaggerate the bad things in life. They're really not that bad when we really look at them. We're over-dramatic. But anyways, I hope that you take this action. I hope that you take all these steps and that you just go out there, that you crush it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave us an email at themastermindsofrealestate@gmail.com. Again, themastermindsofrealestate@gmail.com. I thank you, and we will see you on Thursday, December 5th, I believe it is. Just double check this real fast. Yes, Thursday, December 5th at 7 p.m. This one will be a live podcast with me and Nassar both. This one's just a little bit different, just testing it out to see how it comes out. I do apologize once again for any background noise, as I am in a public setting. All right, thank you, and it's been real fun. Take care. Bye.